It was a gloomy Friday afternoon in late November, and the sky outside was painted with thick, dark clouds that threatened rain. The air in the classroom was heavy, filled with that unique mix of exhaustion and anticipation only a Friday can bring. It was 7th period, history class. Everyone was restless, their eyes flickering between the clock and Mr. Gaines, who was deep into a lecture about World War II. I sat in the farthest corner by the window, staring outside at the grey skies while scribbling doodles in the margins of my notebook. I wasn't alone in zoning out. Most of the class seemed equally unfocused. Mr. Gaines was the kind of teacher you didn't mind tuning out, as long as you didn't disrupt him. He didn't seem to care much, and that's exactly why most of us liked him. But all that Friday ease came crashing down when the intercom crackled to life. This is a lockdown. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Teachers, secure your classrooms immediately. The principal's voice was sharp, almost shaking, and the sound of the intercom shutting off left a silence so deep that I swear I could hear my own heartbeat. Mr. Gaines froze mid-sentence, the colour draining from his face. Without a word, he rushed to the door, locking it with a loud metallic click before turning off the lights. His usually casual demeanour was replaced by a look of genuine fear. He motioned for everyone to move to the back corner of the classroom. Chairs scraped noisily against the floor as we scrambled to comply, some of us stumbling in our rush. I ended up pressed between the wall and my friend Danny, whose face was pale and tense. Mr. Gaines crouched near the door, whispering hurried instructions to remain silent and still. For the first time all year, the classroom was completely quiet. No whispered jokes, no passing notes, no nervous laughter, just silence, punctuated by the faint hum of the air conditioning vent. The atmosphere was suffocating. Every creak or shuffle felt amplified in the stillness. Then we heard it. Footsteps. They were faint at first, but grew louder with each step, slow and deliberate. The sound echoed down the hallway, and I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Whoever it was, they weren't in a hurry. The steps paused directly outside our door. The shadow of a figure blocked the light filtering through the small window. The door handle jiggled once, then again, harder this time. My pulse quickened, and I instinctively held my breath. Someone was trying to get in. The door didn't budge thanks to the lock, but the handle rattled persistently. Then came the banging, loud, forceful, almost angry. Each hit made the walls vibrate, and I swear I could feel it reverberate through the floor. Mr. Gaines pressed a finger to his lips, his eyes darting toward the door. Finally, the banging stopped. A piece of paper slid under the door, a torn page from a notebook. No one moved for a long moment until Mr. Gaines cautiously reached for it. He unfolded the note and his face went pale. He turned it toward us without a word. The note read, "I see you." We all stared at the words, frozen in terror. Before anyone could react, the faint buzz of electricity cut out, and the room was plunged into darkness. The hum of the air conditioning vent stopped, leaving an oppressive silence that made my ears ring. Outside, the last traces of daylight had faded, leaving the classroom bathed in shadows. The footsteps returned. Slow, deliberate, and moving away from the door this time. They echoed down the hallway, growing softer until they stopped again, somewhere farther away. And then, cutting through the silence, we heard it. A scream. It was high-pitched, raw, and filled with agony. The kind of scream that makes your blood run cold. It was cut off abruptly, replaced by the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Danny whispered to me, "What's happening? Who's out there?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt like it had closed up. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from somewhere down the hall. It sounded like a door being kicked in. The noise made several students jump, and I heard someone stifle a sob. I clenched Danny's arm, my knuckles turning white. Then the footsteps came back. But this time they were faster, running. They stopped outside our door again. "Open the door," a voice called out. It was low, gravelly, and almost casual. "It's safe now." No one moved. Mr. Gaines gestured for us to stay quiet, his eyes locked on the door. The voice became more urgent. "Please let me in! He's coming! You have to let me in!" Something about the tone didn't sit right with me. It wasn't panicked, it sounded off, almost rehearsed. The door handle jiggled again, and then we saw it, an eye pressed against the small glass window. The figure's face was partially obscured by the darkness, but the eye scanned the room slowly. Then a smile spread across his face, chilling and deliberate. The sound of shouting interrupted the eerie moment. Distant voices echoed down the hallway, authoritative and commanding. "Police! Drop your weapon!" The figure at the door turned abruptly and bolted, the sound of his footsteps fading quickly. The intercom buzzed back to life a moment later. The principal's voice, still shaky but calmer, announced, "The lockdown is lifted. Students, remain in your classrooms. Teachers, await further instructions." Relief washed over us, but it was far from over. Officers escorted us out, one classroom at a time. As we walked down the hallway, I couldn't help but notice the dark streaks smeared across the linoleum floor and a single shoe lying abandoned near the lockers. The next day, the news reported that a former janitor with a history of mental illness had entered the school, armed and dangerous. He was caught in the woods behind the building after a brief chase. But here's the part that still haunts me. That note under the door, the one that said, "I see you." It wasn't written in pen or pencil. It was written in blood. And even now, I can't stop wondering, whose blood was it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more thrilling tales.